Whenever it's a neutral site, you just never know which way it could go.
Derek Carr off his back foot, open receiver and caught. Time for Carr. There's Richard. Touchdown, Oakland. Lamar Miller untouched down the sideline, inbounds all the way to the pylon.
Was Hopkins out of bounds on that play? No. You know, we got all these cameras, and we can't get that right.
There was multiple times, I saw a green laser coming from the stands. Certainly having a laser, zoomed in on your eyeball definitely affects how you play a game.
Long pass to the fullback. Jameis Olawale in the clear. Touchdown, Oakland. Amari Cooper run into the end zone.
They win their 4th game in a row for the first time since 2002.
Just win, baby. Welcome into First Take on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for hanging with us.
Al Davis would have approved
exactly.
of that.
Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karen.
What up, boy?
What's going on?
What's going on, you?
Nothing. I love that Monday Night Football went down to Mexico City, and our network did a great job with all the
Well, our
coverage.
network
really
did a great job. I'm not sure if fans lasering a quarterback's eyes is very ethical or what have you. Something
But it worked about that.
But you know what the problem with Mexico City is? At that elevation, it's hard enough to play football. You have guys complaining of nausea and dizziness and stuff. And, like, what's next? They're going to take it to the top of Mount Everest to expand it to Nepal? It doesn't make sense.
I'm just glad that the NFL went down to support that fan base, and it was fun to watch. Let's get into it.
Okay.
The Raiders defeated the Texans on Monday Night Football in Mexico City, 27-20, to move into first place in the AFC. Derek Carr orchestrated his 8th game-winning drive in the 4th quarter and overtime since the start of the season. Only Matthew Stafford has more. Max, are you still saying the Raiders are a year away from being contenders?
Not only am I saying they're a year away, but I'm saying they're overrated. The Raiders at this moment are overrated. And Raiders fans, I know that there's a big national Raiders fan base, and I don't hate on it like the Cowboys fan base. It's not as correct a pick as the Steelers as your out-of-market team, but the Raiders have, respect to the Raiders and their fans. And they have a great offense. And they have a special quarterback and wideout. And they have some interesting players on defense. But the defense isn't there. They're not good enough there yet. And I think that clearly the foundation is there for them to win at least a Super Bowl. If you're a Raiders fan right now, you're thinking, we can come out of the Carr era with at least a Super Bowl win, maybe multiple appearances, maybe more than one Super Bowl. I think they're that special on the offensive side of the ball. But when you're 20th in points allowed, I mean, there are teams like the Bears that are better defensively by that metric than the Raiders. The Bears are better. The Jets are just about the same. They're 1 point different. The Bengals are better. These are not very good teams and not very good defenses this year either. So now the Raiders defense has gone from just about the worst in football, which is unwinnable, to bottom 3rd. But Stephen A., they're still not a team which is defensively ready to win a Super Bowl, and therefore they've become overrated.
You're wrong, but there's no surprise there, Max Kellerman. The fact of the matter is they're the 2nd best team in the AFC right now, which makes them a threat, which makes them somebody that's formidable, not to mention the fact that at some point in time, you're going to have to make up your mind because you lamented the fact that the New England Patriots let go of Jamie Collins. You lamented the fact that the New England Patriots
I didn't, actually.
You did. Actually, you did. I'm not saying that you didn't say they weren't going to the Super Bowl or anything like that, but you said they were not themselves. And so when we look at it from that perspective, if there's vulnerability on the part of the New England Patriots, then excuse me, who else in the AFC is definitively better than the Oakland Raiders? Nobody is definitively better. The Denver Broncos, their secondary is their strength, but they got problems defending the run and particularly tight ends. The Kansas City Chiefs are there, but we got a game manager in Alex Smith who will manage not to manage a game when it really, really counts. The Pittsburgh Steelers, their defense is shredded. The Baltimore Ravens, as stout as they are defensively, offensively, they lack passion, something we'll get into a little bit later. The Cincinnati Bengals are a joke. Everybody in the AFC East other than the Patriots is irrelevant. Everybody in the AFC South is irrelevant. So when you look at it from that perspective and you're thinking about the Oakland Raiders, I'm here to tell you something right now. I can't summarily dismiss what I'm seeing from these boys. And I would also take you back to a little, little history here, Max Kellerman. Little history here. I know you're a young buck, you know what I'm saying? Wet behind the ears.
You guys are like 2 years apart.
You're a little bit younger than me. I'm acting all old here, right?
You're like a couple of years apart.
Hey, enjoy this moment. I'm acting like I'm considerably older than you when I don't look it nor feel it. But here's the point. My point to you is this. The Miami Dolphins years ago Dan Marino, Mark Super Duper, Mark Clayton, Chuck Muncie and the crew. Defense, terrible. Super Bowl berth. San Diego
Not
Chargers.
championship, though.
I know that. No championship, but Super Bowl berth. That's what I said. San Diego Chargers, Dan Fouts, Charlie Joyner, Kellen Winslow, and the crew. Okay, what happened? You know, AFC Championship game. Lost because it was freezing in Cincinnati at the time. This is when the Cincinnati Bengals actually had a football team that was relevant, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's a long time ago. You might not remember that. But Kenny Anderson was their quarterback. Sam White was their head coach. Stuff like that. These guys went to a Super Bowl. And they lost to the 49ers. But, it was freezing that day. San Diego couldn't do it. I'm saying to you that there have been plenty of times in history where a stock, because you know your NFL, girl. Let me tell you something. You had times in the past where there were elite offensive teams that didn't have they didn't have a defensive prowess, but they were good enough to get to the bowl.
Two different things.
And that's
if
what I think you got to look at.
The question is, could they possibly make it to a Super Bowl? There are 15 teams you could say that about. I don't
Really?
think that's
Really? Give me the 15. I'm putting you on the spot right now. Give me the 15. You just went 15 teams.
By the way, let me tell you who could possibly the Green Bay Packers could get it
I'll
together.
help you if you want.
Hold on.
The New
York Giants. Those are middle of the pack teams. You and I the three of us.
I don't find the Giants to be middle of the pack.
Well, they've been a little
above?
Yes, I think you're a bit emotional here. I think you're a bit emotional.
Out of 32 teams, 15. Look, we've all seen the Giants twice in recent years win 9 games, win a Super Bowl.
I'm gonna call you out to the national audience. We want to play together.
We're talking
Max and I want to play together. This is Max in a plane. Oh God, he's driving me crazy. I don't know if I can take. I mean, he was losing his mind. He was losing his mind.
I'm watching the Giants.
I love that passion.
People on the plane looking at Max like, what's the matter with him? What's wrong with Max Kellerman? This doesn't seem right because he's so emotional.
You missed the extra point.
He's emotional. You're not rational. You're not rational. It's not 15 teams. It's not even 10 teams. If we look at the Oakland Raiders right now,
yes,
a legitimate argument could be made to one of the top 5 teams in the NFL.
Wait. I want to go back for a second. The point is, if the question is, could they possibly win a Super Bowl, there are many teams, in my opinion, that get hot at the end of the season, good enough to squeak in. Some things happen, they win a Super Bowl. That's not how I'm interpreting the question. It's, do you think that the odds are stacked in their favor to win a Super Bowl? For example, in the NFC right now, you look at the Cowboys and the Seahawks. You go, those are Super Bowl contenders. In the AFC, the Patriots, yes. Are the Raiders on that level? They're tied for 10th in point differential. So let me give you some AFC teams that are better, and let me tell you why you don't think they have as good a chance.
Better than the Raiders.
In point differential.
I don't care about the point differential.
The Patriots.
Who's better? Give me who's better.
The Broncos. I'm just giving you point differential.
Broncos.
Patriots, Broncos, Bills, and Chiefs. Now let me tell you why you don't believe in those teams, but you do in the Raiders. You look at the quarterbacks. The Patriots have Tom Brady, but you look at Simeon, you look at Taylor, you look at even a guy like Alex Smith, and you say, no, I like Carr better as the quarterback, so they're a sexier pick as a team. But the fact is, they have no better chance to win than those other teams. They're fundamentally
no better. The Chiefs, it's because they just had a bad loss.
May I retort?
Yes.
This is a game of football, right? We ain't talking about football, right? It's not hockey. You got me in hockey. I don't know a damn thing about hockey. You know what I'm saying? The only thing I know about is the puck is black, okay? Man, I don't know anything about NASCAR. I don't know. This football, though.
Well, we're in the same boat. Go ahead.
Quarterback position is important, would you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Is not Derek Carr an MVP candidate?
He is.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's a candidate.
Amari Cooper is a stud.
He's a real
deal. Are we disputing that?
Sure. Yes, so's
Michael Crabtree is a secondary offensive option at the wideout spot. Is no joke. Are we correct? Latavius Murray is no joke. DeAndre Washington is a backup.
Offense.
I'm sorry, a great offense.
Yes.
So what I am saying to you is they're 8-2 for a reason. Yeah,
are they better than the Falcons?
Excuse me.
Who they lost to, by the way?
By the way, I think a legitimate argument could be made. It's nip and tuck. It's a pick 'em right there.
So I agree. Are the Falcons Super Bowl contenders?
Wait a minute, but the Falcons are in the NFC because you got the Cowboys and the Seahawks there waiting for you, and Washington and the Giants are on the come up. So the road to prosperity
is easier in the AFC.
The road to prosperity is difficult. In the AFC, if you're the Oakland Raiders, who, by the way, have home field advantage if the playoffs were to begin today, the road to the Super Bowl would have to come through Oakland. I'm sorry, I think that the New England Patriots are the only team you have to worry about.
The only real argument you can make that the Raiders are somehow better situated than the Falcons, who had, coming off the bye, we're not thinking about them right now. But the only real difference is there's one actually excellent team in the AFC, that's the Patriots. There are 2 actually excellent teams in the NFC, that's the Cowboys and the Seahawks. And so because of the existence of one extra actually good team, you're considering the Raiders Super Bowl.
Allow me, because you'll appreciate this, because this leans towards your moment. This is your moment to shine, Mr. Analytics. You know, Spock Kellerman himself.
See,
I'm sorry.
Barely any numbers
when you got two, well, I'm proud of you. Very touching moment. Here's the deal. Do you realize that when you got two teams in one conference, then that means it blocks your chances in all likelihood of getting to that penultimate game, which is the second, the
championship game. Yeah.
So the point that I'm trying to make to you is that by virtue of it being two teams, and I gave you more than two, but I gave two teams in Dallas and Seattle.
Healthy,
Dallas and Seattle. I'm saying to you, excuse me, then that means if you're the Falcons, you got to go through one of them just to get to a conference championship game. Oakland may not have to do that.
They may have to go through let's see what happens with the Broncos, who just won the Super Bowl, by the way.
And why we're mentioning
contender.
Why we're mentioning the AFC, I know they're not in the playoff picture, not contenders, but shout out to the Dolphins. We didn't mention them yesterday. 5-game winning streak. Want to give them some love.
I'd give them a little bit of love, but damn it, they in the AFC East.
All right, let's get into the other storylines from last night. The poor officiating, and it did not go unnoticed by Texans head coach Bill O'Brien. So first there was this. DeAndre Hopkins caught a pass down the sideline and was running for a touchdown where officials said he stepped out of bounds and the play was whistled dead. Under the current rules, if a play is whistled dead, it cannot be challenged. The next two calls had to do with spotting the ball. Lamar Miller ran around the left side on third down and appeared to have the first down as he fell forward, but officials didn't give the Texans a favorable spot and ruled that Miller was short by a few inches. In a tie game, O'Brien decided to go for it after Miller was ruled short. Akeem Hunt got the fourth down handoff, went through the middle. That seemed to be clearly get enough for a first down. Again, landed short.
Plays today. I mean, let's go back to the first quarter. Was Hopkins out of bounds on that play? No. So, look, I'm not going to sit up here and get fined. I'm just third-year coach in the NFL. But, I think we really got to look at all those things. We got all these cameras, and we can't get that right, I didn't think Hopkins was out of bounds, but the whistle had blown, so I couldn't challenge that play even though I threw my flag, so they didn't give me the timeout because the whistle had blown, but I thought he was in bounds. So start there, and then list all the things that I could have challenged.
All right, Stephen A. Mike Tomlin complaining about this after Sunday, clearly officiating an issue right now. How do you fix it?
First of all, I think personally that coaches should stop being fined for calling out officials. Everyone else is accountable, and it shouldn't be at the sole discretion of the league office to sit up there and view things in hindsight and retrospect, go back to the film and say, okay, we realize you made this mistake, and announce it to the world and to move on. If you're willing to concede and announce publicly that an official has made a mistake, then a coach whose job could be on the line has every right to speak adamantly after the game about a mistake officials have made. Last night, that was a bona fide mistake. DeAndre Hopkins, that was a touchdown. I remember with this kid, Tyler Boyd, with the Steelers and Bengals. That was a missed call. I remember Julio Jones. There was a pass interference that wasn't called against Richard Sherman. Now, Richard Sherman and I had spoken afterwards, and he talked about you didn't see the push-off prior to me hitting him. So Richard Sherman has his own, his own valid argument. But nevertheless, that was a missed call for the cameras. Of course, we know the Richard Sherman roughing a kicker call that wasn't called against the Buffalo Bills. That's just to name a few. And when you have these calls being missed, it's a problem. Now, the officials are not full-time. They're part-time workers. I don't know if that's the answer, to be quite honest with you. But I do believe in an era where technology is clearly so advanced, there are so many things that have transpired, and there are so many ways for checks and balances where the element of human error doesn't have to be so pronounced and profound. There is no excuse for the league to continue to allow these officials to make these kind of mistakes. They need to clean this up.
All right, get your oven mitts ready, because I have a hot take for you.
Oh, boy.
Okay?
Here we go.
There is no problem with the officials. There's no problem. It feels like that to fans nowadays because fans are much more knowledgeable than they used to be, partly because of ESPN and other places informing fans and the broadcasts being filled with expert analysts and now former officials as the unofficial official on the broadcast. Everyone's an expert. The proliferation of fantasy football, et cetera, has more people interested, even in decline as the ratings have been recently. It's the most popular entity in American entertainment, period. Everyone's an expert. There are cameras everywhere. They're high def. So we see everything that we didn't used to see, and we catch more mistakes than ever before. There's social media, so the outrage is amplified immediately. But there's actually, and look, they're doing the best they can. In this situation, I don't even understand the argument. You're saying with all the cameras around, coaches complaining that with all the cameras around, they should have caught that. In the moment, they blew it. If, by the way, from some pictures you go, that was really close.
So you thought he stepped out?
There's one still picture that can make the argument that, in fact, his foot was on the chalk. But the point is, even if he didn't, and even if they shouldn't have blown the whistle, at the moment they did, you can't review, you can't do anything because the defense stops playing. And to assume he would have scored, because likely he wouldn't have stumbled or something like that, you can't make that assumption. So that was, if you believe they blew the call, you just have to live with it. Even with instant replay, even with different rules, that call would have still been blown. The officials will never be perfect, even with if you computerized everything, it still would be imperfect. Some things would be missed. Now, do you remember what it was with the replacement refs? Were they better or worse? They were significantly worse.
Yeah, we cheered when they came back.
Because these are the best in the world. It's just that
this is a rule issue.
Football has Byzantine rules. It's a complicated sport.
Byzantine?
Yes, it's complicated
the Byzantine
and involved.
Empire.
In other words, it's not
I know about
basketball.
That.
One of the reasons basketball is exporting so well all over the world is it's accessible. Anyone watching basketball knows exactly what they're looking at. The rules are very quick to learn. Football, they're so complicated. Your team scores, you don't even know if it's going to stand.
They should be able to
Let me tell you where
that's always going to be that way.
Let me tell you where I think you're confusing the argument. I don't think folks are complaining about the officials. They're complaining about the lack of corrections in an age of technology where the NFL has gone out of its way to say, we are advanced, we have gotten exponentially better, we're doing this, we're doing that, and more importantly, we are blatantly and flagrantly going about the business of trying to eliminate human error from the equation, and technology is assisting in that. So if you have a coach, that particular call with DeAndre Hopkins may be valid in terms of the whistle was blown. But when you've got Tomlin and you've got Rex Ryan and you've got, Quinn and others that have a bevy of complaints to point to where the human error should have been corrected because the technology is there and it coincides with the rules that are in place to facilitate addressing it, and you still don't do it. That's a problem.
On one condition. I'll fix it for everyone right now if you really want me to fix it. There needs to be people from league headquarters in New York somewhere reviewing the plays immediately on video and making a call within 15 or 20 seconds.
Okay.
They still won't get it 100% right because if you review it for 2 minutes, you might get an even more accurate call. But generally, sitting on your couch, within 15 seconds, you know the call better than the ref did. So if you can do that and not slow up the game because you can get an immediate better call, fine.
That's good.
That's one way.
Coach should be able to challenge
then say that.
Well,
because
you
were
assuming there's a problem.
But you were acting like there was no problem.
The question is, how would you fix the refs?
But you were acting like there was no problem is what I'm trying to say.
It's not that you can't get even better calls. It's that the refs aren't broken, one, and two, that play, it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
It's not about the refs being broken, but it is about, you're trying to eliminate human error. You've been flagrantly going about the business of doing so. Then, damn it,
that
do it.
just wasn't the play to make that point on.
I agree with that.
They should be able to challenge it.
I agree with that. They should be able to challenge it.